When I lost my memory, I fell head over heels for Jessica. I nearly drowned saving her. But as I was dying, she was on the phone with her first love. You're the only one I love. He's just a backup. By some miracle, I was saved and taken to the ICU. Lying there, something came back to me. I used to be in love with Jessica Miller's sister. Later, I got married, holding hands with the one I truly loved. Jessica came to me with red eyes, saying, "Please, could you lose your memory one more time?" I thought I'd never wake up again. Autumn river water is freezing. I stood at the shore yelling at Jessica to come back, but she wouldn't. She looked like she was ready to die, walking straight into the middle of the river. Panicked, I kicked off my shoes, tossed my coat, and jumped in. I forgot I couldn't swim well. Driven by sheer will, I reached her, dragged her toward the bank, and with the last of my strength, pushed her to safety. But when I tried to climb up myself, I realized I was completely drained, no strength left. Jessica didn't even glance at me. She picked up her phone from the bank and started muttering that name that haunted me. "Jason, do you really not care? You won't even show up when I jump into a river?" She didn't notice I was sinking. I was so exhausted I couldn't even cry for help. Pain stabbed through my chest, like someone twisting a knife to make sure it really hurt. For 3 years, I gave Jessica everything I had, everything but my life. But the moment Jason Smith returned from overseas, Jessica forgot me entirely. So completely, it was like she was the one with amnesia, not me. As I sank beneath the surface, Jessica was tapping on her phone. I thought she was calling for help, but no, she answered a call, tears streaming down her face. "Jason, you're the only one I love. No one compares to you. Luke was just a placeholder while you were gone. I've been waiting for you to come back, even underwater." I wanted to laugh. Fool. If he really cared about you, how could he vanish for 3 years without a single word? He's just playing you. And the one who truly loved you, you're going to let him die. I'm the only son of the Dawson family, the sole heir. 3 years ago, after hitting my head and losing my memory, I fell deeply in love with Jessica. One time, Jennifer called me drunk and asked, "Are you possessed? If you are, just say the word. I'll find a priest to exorcise you." I hung up on her. That night, Jessica was drunk too, and I had to pick her up. I rushed over and found her crying, eyes red and puffy. A man stood beside her, nodded at me indifferently, and then got into a cab. Jessica ran after the car, shouting, "Jason!" I froze. I knew who Jason was. Jessica's one true love, the red mark on her heart. He left the country without a word. And now that he's back, he blames her for not waiting, for being with me. Jessica collapsed on the sidewalk, hands over her face, tears spilling through her fingers. I'd never seen her cry like that. When we argued, she would just scoff and ignore me for days, until I caved and made up with her. I didn't know Jessica could cry like this. I brought her home that night, handed her a warm towel. "Jessica, if you really love Jason, I'll step aside." She sobbed until she fell asleep. Never said a word. I thought maybe she remembered I was her boyfriend now. I thought she might care, just a little. But I later found out she didn't say anything because she didn't hear me. She cried herself into exhaustion. In the end, I didn't drown. Jessica finally remembered I existed. She screamed for help, and a few fishermen pulled me out. By the time I was rescued, I'd lost consciousness. They rushed me to the ICU. Honestly, I was still aware then. Just frozen like a vegetable, could hear everything, but couldn't move. I heard Jessica yelling like mad beside me. "Luke Dawson, you're gonna be fine, right? You're not gonna leave me." She cried harder than ever before. "Why'd you go in the water if you can't swim? Why?" Then I heard her beg the doctors, "Please wake him up. He can't die." The way she acted made me question everything. My life was slipping away, my brain barely working, but I was still confused. Wasn't she just pouring her heart out to Jason? Hadn't she already decided to break up with me? Why did she suddenly seem like a different person? Then I heard another familiar voice trembling with rage accusing Jessica. "Didn't you say you cherish Luke? Is this how you cherish him?" Oh, Jennifer. She'd blocked me ever since I told her I was going to propose to Jessica. Disappeared without a word. But now, she was running alongside my gurney, sobbing. "Luke, wake up! 3 years ago, you told me half a sentence. I've been waiting ever since. Wake up and finish it!" I was exhausted. Everything was going dark. I thought I was falling into eternal night. But before the darkness took me, I wondered what, half a sentence? Why can't I remember any of it? Damn, amnesia really messes things up. I like Jessica for a simple reason. One day, I saw her in a beige dress, painting in the miller's backyard. The sunlight lit her up. A breeze rustled by pure serenity. That scene hit me like lightning. My heart told me I loved a girl who wore a beige dress and painted under the sun and had loved her for a long time. I'd lost my memory, but I believed it was Jessica. From that day on, I started following her everywhere. I sent haute couture dresses and luxury jewelry to the millers like money was no object. When Jessica craved fried cakes, I drove to the next city and stood in line for 2 hours to get the best ones. She was frail, so I watched tutorials and learned how to make nourishing soups and porridge myself. When she had insomnia, I took her to every top traditional medicine doctor I could find, until I practically became an expert myself. I did everything I could, but Jessica never looked truly happy. I could tell her smiles were always forced. Then Jason came back. The very first night he returned, Jessica's insomnia, untreated for 3 years, miraculously disappeared. She even dreamed. Whatever she saw made her smile in her sleep. A genuine, radiant smile. Watching her like that, I suddenly craved a cigarette. I'd quit for her. Jessica hated the smell. But that night, I gave in. Went downstairs to the convenience store, bought a pack, smoked 2 before heading back up. Actually, after Jason came back, Jennifer had pulled me aside and said, "You should hang out with my sister more. Go shopping, catch a movie, spend time together." She didn't spell it out, but I knew she was worried about Jason and Jessica rekindling old feelings. I appreciated that. After I confessed to Jessica, Jennifer had started drinking, smoking, riding motorcycles. People said she used to be such a good girl. No one knew why she changed. But even when I saw her drinking and smoking, I still thought she's a good girl. Now she was worried Jessica would dump me, but still spared my pride. That warmed me a little. I smiled at her. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." But that was just to comfort her. Truth was, I had no clue what I was doing. Jessica came home later and later. First, she'd still join me for dinner. Then she'd bring takeout. Then she wouldn't show up until the early morning, reeking of cold night air. She brought her laptop home, saying there was a lot going on at the Miller house and she had to work overtime. But the joy in her eyes was impossible to hide. I've worked overtime before. It's never something to be happy about. Still, I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Jessica was getting colder and colder. She barely spoke 10 sentences at home now, and even if I asked, she wouldn't answer. Sometimes I really wondered we'd had good times, hadn't we? Jessica used to curl up in my arms on chilly nights, asking me to warm her freezing hands and feet. She cried her eyes out watching romantic movies with me, sniffled and said she wanted us to stay just like that forever. We even went to hang a love lock together. When we locked it, she held my arm and looked so sincere. How did she manage to become a different person overnight? I didn't understand. I'm the kind of guy who's stubborn. Once I choose someone, it's hard to let go. Later, Jessica stopped coming home, wouldn't pick up my calls, but I still kept up the home we'd shared, just me now. Jennifer couldn't stand it sometimes and would fight with Jessica, but it was no use. Jessica would call me instead. "Luke, don't do things that make me look down on you. Don't use my sister." At first, I tried to explain. But once, Jessica snapped, yelling, "Do you really think your pathetic tricks will make me forget Jason? Dream on!" That early autumn day, a gust of wind blew through me cold to the bone. I stood frozen. After a while, Jessica cleared her throat and coughed. "I didn't mean it like that." I lowered my head and smiled. "Jessica, I'm not clinging to you. If you don't love me, then let's break up. Just say the word and I'll agree." Jessica said nothing. I waited a moment, sighed, and said it myself. "Jessica, let's not be together anymore. I'm stubborn, but not obsessive. You can't force love." I thought she'd be happy I finally said it, but she hung up in silence. A few days later, she called again, drunk, slurring her words. Give me a little time, okay?" I sighed. "Time for what?" "I just need to think." Jessica insisted. I thought I knew what mattered most, but now I'm not so sure. I shook my head. Jessica, I don't want to keep waiting. All those nights sitting in silence, watching the dawn break alone, I'd had enough. Let's break up, I said calmly, putting an end to something that had long been dead. But again, Jessica said nothing. She hung up. The next day, she sent me a WeChat message showing her bedroom. I've been staying home these days. Jennifer backed her up. She really has. After 10 every night, I've been dragging her home. I laughed at Jennifer's pouty face. That's not necessary, Jennifer, but thanks. The breakup to me was final. But Jessica didn't seem to think so. She started texting and calling constantly, like nothing had happened. She even started calling me hubby. She used to get furious if I so much as suggested it. I didn't reply to any of it, but it still stung. If she'd treated me like this even for half a year during the last 3, maybe I wouldn't have said goodbye. That image always stayed with me. Her in that beige dress, painting under the Sunday. It kept looping in my mind, like a spell, a reminder. This is the girl you love. A curse that made me charge ahead, knowing full well I was being a fool. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I'd even dream what if Jessica really changed. Wouldn't that be nice? But it was just a dream. When Jason got mad and left the country again, all of that turned to dust. His sudden departure terrified Jessica. She thought he'd vanish for another 3 years. She ran after him, got turned away. After that, she stopped contacting me. Until one day, drunk, she sent me an address. Jason, I know you're back. If you won't see me, I'll jump into the river. I knew she sent it to the wrong person, but I saw the selfie she included standing by the river. Sunlight on her beige dress, eyes wide and doe-like. It blurred into the hazy figure in my mind. I closed my eyes. I admit it, I'm pathetic. I still love that girl in the beige dress, so I went. I went to the address she sent and pulled her out of the water. I ended up in the ICU. I was unconscious in the ICU for many days, nearly half a month. During that time, I had a dream. In the dream, a girl with deer-like eyes looked at me through tears and said, "How could you not recognize me?" I was stunned. In that moment, I realized the one I'd always loved wasn't Jessica. I suddenly remembered I'd been in love with Jennifer for 2 years. The day I hit my head and lost my memory, I had been planning to confess to her. That day, Jennifer was wearing a beige dress, painting under the Sunday. Her fair skin, her gentle face, and when she turned and smiled, it was like spring water. But she never got my confession. What she got instead was me holding her sister's hand. I remembered the way those deer-like eyes looked when she saw me and Jessica together, how they shifted from disappointment to despair, how she forced back her tears and smiled, wishing us happiness. My girl, how did she survive these past 3 years? I closed my eyes. Tears slipped from the corners. A nurse saw and shouted excitedly, "Doctor, the patient's awake!" Yes, I was awake. The real me was finally awake. They transferred me to a VIP room. As I left the ICU, I saw Jessica. Her hair was messily tied up, her dress wrinkled, eyes bloodshot, her face pale as a ghost clearly hadn't slept in days. She staggered toward me, tears falling before she even spoke. "Luke, you scared me to death!" A nurse nearby smiled admiringly. "You two must be really in love. This young lady sat by your bed for nearly 3 days without rest. If this had been before, I might have been deeply moved." But now, my eyes didn't settle on Jessica. I looked behind her. Jennifer stood there too, just as disheveled, her eyes just as red. She looked at me through tears. "Don't do anything dangerous again," she sniffled. "If something happened to you, She stopped mid-sentence, lowered her head. Jessica and the nurse wheeled me to the VIP room. Jessica told Jennifer to wait outside, then bustled around inside, getting me water, arranging meals. But I stopped her. "Jessica, can you call Jennifer in for a second?" Jessica froze, confused, but did as I asked. Jennifer walked into the room. These 3 years had changed her. Her shoulder-length hair was now cut short with bangs. Her long skirts replaced by a leather jacket and jeans. But those eyes hadn't changed. Still like a little deer, blinking up at me, face streaked with tears, glittering under the sunlight. I closed my eyes, holding back the ache in my chest, and motioned for Jennifer to come closer. Only when she was near enough for me to see her flawless fair skin did I speak, my voice trembling, choking down the sob in my throat. Jennifer, I'm sorry. Jennifer, I remember now. She froze for a second, then suddenly covered her mouth and burst into tears. Her sobs were muffled, but couldn't hide the deep sense of grievance, fragile and painful, like a wounded little creature. My eyes welled up too. I had promised to give her the greatest happiness, and yet I made her watch as I spent 3 years with someone else. Jessica had never really paid attention to her sister's life. All these years, she'd poured everything into Jason. So she had no idea that Jennifer and I had feelings for each other years ago, nor that I had once planned to confess to Jennifer. She stood there dumbfounded as I apologized to Jennifer, watched as Jennifer cried her heart out, and listened to me explain in a few short sentences. Her face turned paler and paler. Her breathing became unsteady. When I finished, she swayed, her nose and eyes red. She asked, trembling, "So, the past 3 years between us were just some stupid case of mistaken identity?" I was silent for a moment, then nodded. "If that's how you see it, yes." Jessica staggered again, looking at me, then at Jennifer. Tears rolled down her cheeks in heavy drops. She gritted her teeth. "Luke, you bastard!" She was crying so hard her lips trembled. "How could you tell me this just when I finally figured out how I felt that the last 3 years were all a mistake? I didn't say a word." Honestly, even I was struggling to face this version of Jessica. She didn't love me anymore, so why Jennifer shook her head at me. "Luke, it's been 3 years. No matter what, you and my sister have something between you. I don't want to hurt her." But I didn't have time to respond. I was confused myself. I turned to Jessica. "When I pulled you from the water and was sinking, you were still on the phone with Jason. Right before I went under, you were telling him he was the only one you'd ever love. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even disappointed. Just confused." "Jessica, were you possessed? You watched me drown and now you're acting like you're madly in love with me?" I pulled the blanket over me. "Please, don't do this. I'm not used to it." Jessica's face turned even whiter. She stared at me, speechless. It looked like she wanted to explain, but nothing came out. After all, it was all true, wasn't it? Jennifer burst into tears again. She rushed over and stepped in front of me, blocking Jessica's view. "Sis, I didn't want to say anything, but the way you've treated Luke is just too cruel." She sobbed uncontrollably. "How could you stab him in the heart after he nearly died saving you? Do you even know he saved you once before, when we were kids?" Jessica froze. So did I. I had no idea what Jennifer was talking about. Jennifer wiped her tears angrily. "Back when we were kids, you and I were being targeted by traffickers. Luke came to play with us that day. He followed them, risking everything, and shouted, 'Kidnappers!' in the middle of a busy street." Jennifer grabbed my hand. "He even got slashed by one of them. He's still got a scar on his hand. And you forgot all of it and paid him back like this?" Jennifer was gasping for breath between sobs, while I lay in bed for a long time trying to remember. The pain from that injury had been so intense that my brain must have blocked it out. If she hadn't mentioned it, I honestly wouldn't have recalled. Jessica remembered too. Her face turned even paler. "Luke, I forgot. She leaned against the wall, her voice filled with despair. "How could I forget something like that?" Jennifer bent down and gently hugged me. "It's okay if you forgot, as long as I remember." I was discharged soon after. Jennifer and I had wasted 3 whole years now. I didn't want to waste another second. I planned to take her to meet both of our parents. We went to the Miller house first. Her parents were overjoyed to see me. We came from the same business circle. They knew me well. They were happy Jennifer and I were together. But Jessica was there too. She kept her head down the entire time, silent, just listening to her parents praise how perfect Jennifer and I were together and discuss our future wedding. It wasn't until I was about to leave that Jessica stood up, saying she'd walk me out on her parents' behalf. She followed me all the way to the front gate, outside the ornate iron gate of the Miller house. Under the soft glow of the street lamp, I finally understood why she hadn't looked up the whole time. Her eyes were red and swollen, like she'd been crying for days. Even though I'd regained my memory and remembered who I truly loved, I still stood there looking into those eyes, silent. In 3 years, Jessica had never cried like this, not even when Jason disappeared without a word. She sniffled, the tip of her nose pink, and eyes that looked so much like Jennifer's glistened with tears. Luke, we were together for 3 years, and not once did we meet the parents. Her tears landed quietly on her fair feet. But with Jennifer, it's only been a few days, and here you are. I sighed. It wasn't that it didn't hurt. Back then, I'd begged Jessica, so humbly, to take me home and meet her parents. I wanted our relationship to be official, to have a name. But Jessica always just smiled, kissed me, and changed the subject. For 3 whole years, no one but Jason and Jennifer even knew we were together. What a joke. 3 years of love, and only 4 people ever knew. Meanwhile, Jessica's crush on Jason had been public knowledge everyone knew. Even her parents and mine knew she'd loved some guy for years. I sighed again. Jessica, for 3 whole years, you didn't want anyone to know about me. Did you forget? It was never me who didn't want to meet the parents. It was always you. Jessica froze. Her tears fell like broken beads. In the past, no matter how angry I was, seeing her like this would make me soften. She was my girl. I had to protect her. I'd pull her into my arms and comfort her. But tonight, I looked toward the Miller house. One of those glowing windows belonged to Jennifer. The warmth I felt inside was real. I waved at Jessica. You should head back. It's cold. You'll catch a cold. As I turned to go, Jessica called after me. Luke! Her voice was filled with desperation and sorrow, trembling with longing. I miss you, Luke. I didn't respond. I walked away. Jennifer and I got engaged soon after. We had already lost 3 years. I wasn't going to waste another minute. At the engagement party, Jennifer wore a long dress again. Her hair fell gently over her shoulders. She smiled at me, eyes curved like crescents, full of love. The party was small, just close family and friends. Everyone smiled and wished us well, except Jessica. She drank too much, 1 glass after another, until she was drunk. After the party ended, Jennifer drove both sets of parents home. I gave rides to our other friends who were too tipsy to drive. When I returned, Jessica was still drinking. I didn't know how much she'd had to drink. I only remembered that last time. When Jason returned from abroad and left again, she drank a lot too. She drank into the night, came back to the bedroom, hugged me from behind, and whispered a soft, "I'm sorry." The next day, she chased after Jason overseas. But this time, the name on her lips wasn't Jason, it was mine. When she saw me walking toward her, Jessica staggered to her feet. "Luke, are you here for me?" Her eyes lit up, just like the day I confessed to her, bright as flickering stars. But those stars had never shone for me. She stumbled toward me, unsteady in her heels, and fell hard to the floor, her knees slamming into the ground with a loud thud. Jessica froze, her eyes misting over. She reached toward me like a wronged child. "Luke, it hurts." She used to come running at the slightest bump, whining, "Luke, Luke, I'm hurt! Blow on it for me!" But with Jason, she stayed silent, even when covered in bruises. And now, she reached for me again. "Luke, it hurts." Tears slid down her cheeks. "Luke, help me, please. I'm begging you." Her crying was quiet and broken, like someone abandoned. But I simply stepped back and called a waitress over. "Could you please help this lady into the car I ordered for her?" Then I left, instructing the driver to get her home safely and taking down the license plate number. I wasn't doing it for Jessica. It was for Jennifer. As she got into the car, Jessica cried. She lowered the window, pointed at her chest. "Luke, it hurts here. It's been hurting for days. No medicine helps. Luke, what should I do?" I saw real despair in her eyes. "How do I stop the pain, Luke?" I shook my head. "Maybe go to a better hospital and get it checked." I'm no doctor, but I too had once spent night after night staring at an empty bed, clutching my chest in pain. Even though I have Jennifer now, thinking back still breaks my heart. I gave Jessica everything and got nothing. So Jessica, if you're hurting good, you deserve it. Betray true love, and there will always be consequences. After I got engaged to Jennifer, I returned to my old work rhythm. I used to be a workaholic, but during the 3 years I was with Jessica, I was constantly on edge. Anxious, depressed, never myself. Jennifer is steady. She loves her career too. Being with her gives me peace and the energy to build our future. What I didn't expect was for Jessica to show up at my company. She even passed the interview and got hired. Highly recommended by HR. I knew she was from a top university. Smart, competent, a competitive candidate. But I didn't understand why she'd skip working at her family's company to go through all this trouble to join mine. I had no choice but to call her into my office. Jessica showed up in a suit she never used to wear, formal, hair tied back, standing before me. I got in through the proper channels. You can't fire me. She was thinner than before, paler like a gust of wind could knock her over, but her eyes held a desperate conviction. Luke, please give me one more chance. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I've never begged anyone for anything. I've always taken care of my sister, but I just can't let you go. Jessica broke down in sobs, her shoulders shaking. How could I have pushed you away like that? How could I only now realize you're the one I love? I rubbed my forehead. Even though I no longer had feelings for her, it still hurt for everything I'd gone through. I cleared my throat. Jessica, there's no more chance for us. I stood and handed her a tissue. Not now, not ever. Please, stop wasting your time. You're Jennifer's sister. We'll be seeing each other. Let's at least keep some dignity. Jessica swayed, then looked up, her eyes red. Luke, are you saying I have no dignity? I shook my head. Jessica's tears kept falling. She wiped them with trembling hands. But Luke, haven't you made mistakes too? Didn't you use me when you couldn't remember who you loved? To fill that empty space? She stared at me, stubborn. You can't deny it, can you? I lowered my eyes, looking at the hand holding the tissue. These hands had tucked Jessica in, handed her water, and sobering pills. Again and again when she was drunk. In winter nights, on lazy summer afternoons. In every moment she broke down over Jason, I had held her close. I took a deep breath and met her gaze. Jessica, can you honestly say I ever used you? Everything I gave my love, my sincerity, you've forgotten all of it. You were the one sweet-talking Jason while I was drowning. You were the one who left me to chase after Jason the moment he called when I loved you more than life. You were the one who treated me like trash when I treasured you like gold. I took another breath. Jessica, when you trample on true love, you're doomed to a lifetime of loneliness. Jessica stopped crying. Her face was pale. She opened her mouth, then whispered, Can't I make it up to you? Please? I opened the office door. No, Jessica, we're done. And I need you to understand what done means. Jessica took slow steps toward the door. At the threshold, she turned and wiped her tears. Jason called, said he's going abroad again. But this time, I didn't beg him to stay. I just told him to go if he was going. Her smile was soaked in tears. See? I can leave him too. I always knew it was you who stayed for 3 years, not him. I closed my eyes and interrupted her. Jessica, the love I had for you died in that river. I gave her a faint smile. You were the one who killed it. Don't you remember? Jessica froze, staring at me in a daze. A moment later, she covered her mouth, turned, and ran away crying. After that, Jessica never showed up again. Not until the night before my wedding with Jennifer when she showed up drunk and rang my doorbell. I opened the door, and she suddenly threw herself into my arms, clinging to my shirt. I was startled. Regaining my composure, I shoved her away. Jessica looked up at me, smiling. Luke, if I threw something at you right now, do you think you'd lose your memory again? I took a cautious step back. Jessica laughed louder. Relax, I'm still Jennifer's sister. I wouldn't ruin her wedding. She looked at me with regret, and as she looked, her eyes turned red again. Luke, could you lose your memory one more time, please? She closed her eyes, trying to hold back the tears. Luke, I'm hurting. I really am. Please. 2 tears hit the floor. Jessica choked out. Once the wedding happens tomorrow, nothing can be undone. I'll never be able to rest in your arms again, right? I nodded. Right. Jessica opened her eyes and looked at me carefully. Then she smiled. Luke, why can't I forget you? She waved at me. Goodbye, Luke. After a few steps, she stopped, her back to me, and said with a smile, You used to ask me to call you hubby, and I always refused. Luke, just once can I call you that, just once. Then she turned around and called me hubby with a smile. Under the moonlight, her tears shimmered clearly. I looked at her back and felt my eyes grow moist, but I knew it wasn't me crying. It was the heart that once loved her, crying from the bottom of that cold river, crying for all the care it never received in life, only to be grieved for after death. On the day I married Jennifer, the wedding was grand and beautiful. Jennifer wore a white mermaid gown and looked breathtaking. On stage, I listened to the MC tell our story, watched our joyful memories flash across the screen, and felt immense gratitude. Thankful that fate woke me up. Thankful that I found the one I truly loved. Jennifer held my hand, her eyes red and puffy like a little bunny from crying. I pulled her into my arms to comfort her, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the crowd. Jessica sat at the main table in a beige dress, long hair draped over her shoulders, a bright smile on her lips, but silent tears streamed down her face. Someone asked what was wrong, why she was crying so hard. Jessica wiped her tears and smiled at me. "It's nothing. I'm just jealous of my sister. She's got the best husband in the world." Time flew by in the blink of an eye. Jennifer and I had unknowingly walked 12 years together. Our careers were steady. We had a son and a daughter. Life was peaceful and happy. Jessica left the country the day after our wedding and stayed away for over a decade. Every time she returned, it was in and out. Without realizing it, I hadn't seen her in more than 10 years. Until this year, when Jennifer had a minor surgery, Jessica came back to visit. We met again in Jennifer's hospital room. She was still slender and pale, wearing a beige dress, quietly greeting me. "Long time no see," I joked. "You really do love beige dresses, huh? How many do you own?" Jessica opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but lowered her gaze and said nothing, just gave a bitter smile. She took out a small gift box. "I have a studio in Italy. I carved this myself." I opened it and saw two little figurines. One looked like me, the other like Jennifer, sitting quietly together, peaceful and content. Jessica cleared her throat. "I didn't have any photos of you at the time, so I carved from memory. Hope you like it." Jennifer and I nodded repeatedly. "We love it. It's beautiful." Jessica smiled. "I'm glad." She walked over to Jennifer, gently stroked her hair. "Think of it as my blessing. I hope you both grow old together. Always in love." After a pause, she added softly, "And never forget to cherish each other." Jennifer smiled and nodded. As I packed the gift, I asked Jessica, "I heard you're still single. Why haven't you found someone?" Jessica glanced at me, then turned her eyes to the white clouds outside the window. After a while, she gave a faint smile. "I gave up. Being alone isn't so bad." She laughed at herself. "I have high standards. I wanted someone who'd risk their life for me, but I guess that kind of person doesn't come around again." Jennifer comforted her a bit, then grew tired. Jessica stood to leave. I walked her out. As we stepped onto the lawn in front of the hospital, the sky was clear and sunlight shone on Jessica's beige dress. A breeze played with her hair. For a moment, I saw the girl from over a decade ago, the one painting in the Sunday, but this version of her smiled gently and gracefully. "All right, no need to walk me any farther. Go back." I nodded and turned away. But just as I turned, I heard her soft, desolate voice behind me. "I miss you so much." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why can't time go backward in this world?" I paused, but in the end, I didn't turn around. Ahead of me were my wife and children. Behind me was only a lonely soul, mourning a dead heart, a heart that could never be revived, a love that could never be restored. In the end, we can only move forward, accepting every consequence of love. I walked into the sunlight, toward the woman I loved, and never looked back again.